Okay, that was a brief recap of what was going on yesterday with the concepts. Let's start with something new for today. I still want you to include imagery within the setting notes, even though imagery is not only used in setting. It'll be one of the primary ways that we'll see it in setting. And when I see OAA test items, I often see setting connected to a description of, imagery connected to a description of the setting. So let's do this here. Jacob, can you provide for me a definition of imagery?
Imagery would be like, all pictures, sort of thing.
Okay, you're on the right track. So you're saying pictures that the story brings. Hands down. Jacob can do it. Jacob, what brings to mind those pictures? Very good. The text, the words. So it's words that bring about pictures, but I cautioned you before, it's not just pictures. What else could it be? Amir, if I'm not just talking about pictures with imagery, what else might the words be bringing to my mind? Sorry? Character traits are, we're going to talk about character, and there might be a link between the two, but it would be an indirect link. Colby? That wouldn't be imagery. We can bring to mind thoughts, but that wouldn't be imagery. Will? Thank you very much, Will. From the five senses. Anything from the five senses. I often think that the term imagery is not a very helpful term for students because it makes you think only about visual data. Imagery is anything having to do with the five senses. Chase, what are the five senses? Sight. Taste.
Feeling,
touch.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And,
You missed a big one. Hearing, that's right, sound. Okay. So any of the five senses, any words, and I do want to emphasize this, Jacob got it, any words, hello, there we go, any words in the text that bring to mind that information. All right, good enough. Page 17. Let's see. Jenna, would you mind starting us off by reading the first paragraph on page 17, please?
The dark sky felt Andrew's falling heart, but in dread reverie as he soundlessly opened the letter. His father's voice again, first reading the letter the principal had sent to the house, then lecturing Emma Bleed about his poor efforts in that.
Excellent. Chase, why don't you pick it up?
his father's voice came to him again.
Nope. She read that.
I had to leave school when I was 13. His father had said that 8 years younger than you are now. If I'd had half the chances that you have, I'd.
Excellent. Thank you. Andrew?
He sat in a small building for days, knowing the lecture would end with his father saying he couldn't play ball, but spoken. He had asked his father the week before, and his father had said depended on his next report card. It wasn't often Scorpions took on new players, especially 14-year-olds, and this was a chance of a lifetime for Grant. He hadn't been allowed to play high school ball, which he had already wanted to do, but playing for the community center team was the next big thing. Report cards were due in a week, and Greg had been hoping for the best, but the principal had ended the system early when she sent that letter saying Greg would probably fail math if he didn't spend more time studying.
Excellent. Joey, why don't you finish out those last two paragraphs on page 17?
You want to play basketball? His father brows knitted over deep brown eyes. That must be some kind of a joke. Now you just get into your room and hit the ball. That had been 2 nights before. His father's words, like the distant thunder that now echoed through the streets of Harlem, still rumbled softly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to stay on page 17. We're not reading the entire story. We're just reading that first page because that first page is riddled with imagery. Let's see here. Sammy, give me an example of some words from The Treasure of Lemon Brown that call to mind sense impressions. Pick it up. Yep. Drew. More. Excellent start. Chase.
Mr. Thunder,
More. Scour the page. Scour means to look through very carefully every nook and cranny, every word. Any language where the author is describing something in the five senses. Go, Miles. Play high school ball. Actually, that's a description of an action. You're correct, but he's not showing me the action. He's just telling me the action, which is playing. So if he showed me him on the court, then that would be imagery. Okay, good guess. That's an abstract concept. When we're looking at imagery, you've got to look at something concrete, so something you can touch, something you can hear. If you look at distant thunder, you can't touch distant thunder, but you can definitely hear it, so it's concrete. Will. There you go. Colby. That was yours. Lauren. There you go. I'd probably go with echoed. Excellent job, and thank you very much, Joey and Miles, for making the mistakes, because mistakes are really instructive for us. Let me talk about the mistakes they made so we can see what is imagery and what is not imagery. Get this going here. There we go. that is abstract. This is not imagery because it's not something that you can touch, it's not something you can taste, it's not something that you can see. Played for the Scorpions. This is not imagery because he is only telling you about something happening. He's not showing it through sorry, I can't spell the rest of that word, description. He is not showing it through description. Imagery is an effort to use words to show somebody in descriptive detail what is happening, rather than just telling me about it. So I could say right now, the students took notes. Wouldn't be strong imagery. If I said the students sat half bent over their desks, scribbling furiously onto white pieces of paper, now I've got imagery. Let's review for a moment, back on something we talked about yesterday. Imagery accomplishes a number of tasks in a story. Can anybody remind me of some of the functions, setting. Some of the functions of setting? Just a review of what we talked about yesterday. And some of you had some excellent answers to this question. So, yeah, Matthew. Can create a mood. Excellent. What else can it do? Nature of the characters helps me understand what kind of character I'm talking about. If I'm in an inner city environment here in The Treasure of Lemon Brown, that helps me understand what type of character I'm dealing with. Very good. What else? The rules of the story are dictated by that world. So if I'm, once again, in an inner city environment here, then I'm talking about the rules of a city environment. I'm talking about the rules of school, authority structure, families, and so on. Helps me understand all those relationships. You just gave me the 3 functions of setting that we talked about yesterday. Which one of those 3 functions of setting is this imagery on the board developing? The mood, the nature of characters, or the rules of the story? Excellent. Why would you say mood, Andrew? You've got the idea, Andrew. You're absolutely correct, but it's gonna take some effort for us to properly express this. And of course, remember, that's where we're trying to get, is you being able to write about it and express it. So let's see if we can get there. So we've got this. Okay? The author has used all this imagery to develop the setting, and we're saying that that is creating mood. Miranda, can you remind me of the definition of mood? Not how the character feels. That's right, how this makes the reader feel. So Miranda, as you look at some of those pieces of imagery, how would you say it's the author is intending for you to feel?
It was like the dark sky.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know, sad or something.
Okay. If you see a dark sky, you see angry swirling clouds, and you hear distant thunder, what's your emotional reaction? Add. More. Will in a moment. More. Pretty good. I would add, and this is a development on Elias, threatened. In the beginning of The Treasure of Lemon Brown, the author, Walter Dean Meyer, wishes us to feel basically what the character is feeling. And rather than saying he was scared, he felt threatened, he felt depressed, he felt pessimistic, he's using imagery to carry all that meaning. He's using words like dark, angry, thunder, rumbled, to carry all this emotion. So the imagery helps me create the mood. Anything else in there help me create a sense of fear, a sense of discomfort, a sense of threat? I just circled some of them. Talk to me about some other image that's up there on the page that helps you feel threatened. Will? Deep brown eyes. Let's talk about deep brown eyes for a moment. Discussion on deep brown eyes. Is deep brown eyes a description that is threatening? What do you think? Here you're shaking your head. Not a description that's threatening? No? If you were to describe eyes, you were to describe their color, and you wanted them to be threatening, and you're not going to use deep brown, what would you do? Let's describe their color. It's not a color. Red? Okay, red, bloodshot maybe? Okay, that would be good, yeah. B? You were going to say red? What else? How about eyes so dark they might be black? And nobody has black eyes. However, people have deep brown eyes. That's kind of a soft, almost comforting kind of color. Dark to the point of blackness would be more threatening and, Joey, evil. So I think he could have described it in a different way. What description of dad conveys threat?
It's knitted brows.
Right. When your parent looks at you with knitted brows, that means they're looking at you like this, and there's nothing comforting about that expression. However, we have this, and we have that, and we have that. Words like softly and words like deep brown eyes. What is Myers doing? Sorry, it's a little bit of a challenging, rather vague question. I apologize for it. If we have all of those yellow circled pieces of information, pieces of imagery up there, creating this sense of threat, what do the green circled or identified pieces of imagery do? Miranda? Very good. So it's not totally threatening, is it? He's still dad. He's still looking out for his son. He's still support. He's not abusive. He's just upset because the kid's grades are slipping. So there's a complex message given on this page. How do you know that? By taking a look at the imagery, pulling out the words, the adjectives, and trying to understand how they might make you feel. What kind of mood is created? This page is setting up the story, but it's working on multiple levels. And what we're dealing with right now is looking at imagery and how those multiple levels might work. All right, good enough? Let's take a look at these. I want the right half of the room looking at the open window. I want the left half of the room looking at the telltale heart. I want you to do the exact same activity that we just did for the Treasure of Lemon Brown with that. I want you casting through those pages, and there aren't very many, to see what sort of imagery you might be able to pull out. We're going to be looking at how it creates mood, and especially look for any imagery connected to the setting. No, on any of the pages. Okay, it looks like most of you have finished, so let's start with the open window first. Anybody want to volunteer? Lauren.
I said a dreadful wet summer.
Dreadful wet summer. On what page are you?
I is page 158.
Excellent. Can you read the entire sentence that contains dreadful wet summer?
Yeah. It had been the That dreadful wet summer, and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without warning.
Excellent. So what's Saki's purpose in using dreadful wet summer in that quotation, which is dialogue from the niece, right? Okay, good. What's the purpose?
I said it creates a mood of sadness or gloom for the reader.
And what's the niece's? Okay, so you've got sort of author purpose, but it's in dialogue. So why would the niece use those words?
To make him feel bad.
Excellent. To create the anxiety within Nuttall himself, correct? So she's a good storyteller, and she knows how to use imagery. So that's an excellent example because it's imagery of an author within a story, she being the author speaking the story. Good job. Another open window example? Yeah, Will.
Creepy feeling.
Creepy feeling. What page are you?
Next page, like 38.
Okay. And can you read the sentence for me, please?
I almost got getting creepy feeling that they will walk in through the window.
Okay. So the niece, that's the niece talking again, is talking about a creepy feeling. However, here's what I'll say about creepy feeling. That's not concrete. Creepy is not something you touch or you can hear. It's an emotional state, which means it's an abstract notion, and so is the word feeling. Now let's look at Lauren's for a moment. She was taught it was wet and dreadful, right? Which of those two words is the concrete word?
What?
Correct. So actually, if Lauren had just pulled dreadful, that wouldn't have been the best example either. We need to look at some imagery, and imagery always must be concrete. Wet is concrete, and we're talking about wet weather, and we're talking about the ground being so soggy that it gives way. That's actual physical concrete imagery that creates the feeling. She emphasizes dreadful, or she uses it, dreadful, I'm sorry, to emphasize the feeling that's given. So creepy feeling is like going straight to the emotion without the imagery, and dreadful would be too. We need the concrete imagery. Somebody on Telltale Heart side, Andrew. Speak that again.
Hearken to the death watches.
Hearken to the death watches. On what page?
381.
381. Can you read the sentence for me, please?
For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening thus, as I have done night after night, hearing
Hearkening,
hearkening to the death watches.
which basically means listening. Okay, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. We can see somebody silently and quietly listening to the death watches, which are some sort of insect, right? Okay, listening to the insect. So I do have an image of this guy and his body motion, which is absolutely still, and the action of him listening. So there's a stillness to what he's doing, and it's so quiet that he can actually hear bugs in the wall. So there's auditory and visual imagery. Good, that works. What mood does it create?
Like a scared, depressed.
Scared. You know what? We're going to outlaw, stop. We're going to outlaw the word depressed because you guys go to it too often. I like frightened. I like ominous. I like threatening. I like foreboding. I want those papers. Your name on them. Give them to me as you leave, please.